Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Feedback Friday. This is where Tim and I review resumes and portfolios, whatever design asset you'd like to add to the chat. We do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Arizona time, California time, Washington time, wherever you are in the world that might be. We are recording everything on YouTube. Let me grab a link for you here. A couple of benefits with that. One is if you are getting your thing reviewed today, you don't have to take notes. You can just take a look at the YouTube video afterward. There's a link in the chat. As a consequence, if you have anything that's sensitive that you don't want shared with the greater world, you'll have to take care of that before talking to us. Easy example is your phone number on your resume or anything sensitive that could be on there. So consider censoring it before showcasing it with us or sharing something different. Beyond that, life is good. Feedback Friday is going to be coming along. Tim, what are we doing with Feedback Friday today?
Yeah, today for Feedback Friday, we're looking at resumes and portfolios. At the end of today, though, we are going to take some questions from the audience about AI, using AI with design work, etc. So if you want to hang around towards the end to have a great conversation with us about artificial intelligence and how that's shaping up things, feel free to submit them in the chat as we go along, but also just stick around so we can chat about them. I think our very first person today, though, is that Pavan? Is that who we should be looking at? I'll go ahead and Pavan, I'm going to invite you up to the stage. You get to be our first person. Thank you for being so brave. And I'll pull up your portfolio here shortly. When you get up here, one thing we'll remind you and everyone is that we're not fans of roasting. This is not a portfolio roast. This is more like a portfolio collaboration and just giving us, giving you the insight that we have and helping you craft the story that works for you and gets you where you want to be. So go ahead, come onto the stage, Pavan. And let's take a look at what we've got going for you.
Morning, mate. Tim. How are you guys?
Good morning. You're a little bit quiet. Just give me a second to turn your volume up a little bit. Try that.
Morning, Tim. Can you hear me?
I can hear you okay now. All right, great. Can the chat hear Pavan okay? Or is he still? Well, let's go ahead and let's do this. Pavan, will you introduce yourself? Will you let us know a little bit about who you are, what kind of work you're doing, and then maybe some of your goals for today?
So, hi everyone. My name is Pavan. I'm Pavan. I'm from India, the southern part of India, and I am just getting into the design industry. I have a couple of internships experience, and right now I'm currently interning as a design engineer in a very early stage startup. That is about me, and what I'm looking to gain from this talk today with Tim and Nate is that how are my case studies structured, and is there any improvement that I need to do? And overall, I just want to make some wonderful products that people can use. Yeah, that's it about
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so with that in mind, let me ask, are you looking to find a new role, or is this just about updating your website generally?
I don't get you. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, you said you're working currently as a design engineer with a startup right now.
Yes.
And so I guess I'm asking
Yes.
about the intentions for improving your portfolio today. If your portfolio is about, maybe improving it so that way you're better in interviews for new roles. If this is just kind of like catching up with stuff, generally just improving things as you have the time. Just curious what your motivation is.
Yeah, right now I'm a bit too swamped with work. So whenever I can find time, I keep working on my portfolio, basically to improve it more so that I can get better opportunities, meet better people.
Gotcha. Opportunistic rather than like a serious
Yeah.
hunt. Okay, great. And then are you targeting design engineer roles, or are you specifically targeting UX and product designer roles?
I'm specifically targeting UX and product design roles, not targeting design engineer roles.
Okay,
This is the
very
title that
cool.
I've been assigned for this role.
Hey, it's a pretty cool title. It's a pretty cool title. Okay, well, I think that's pretty good then. I feel like Nate, I feel like Pavan has a pretty strong statement up here for UX product design. Probably passes the first general sniff check. I don't think anything too egregious, although there's definitely opportunities here. Are we ready to jump into a case study?
Sure.
Yeah, the first one is what I wanted to check with you guys.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay, so first of all, before we even click on this, we have how a student innovation platform lost 25% of its users, poor design, and how a full redesign won them back. Okay. Interesting. We have a brain here. And okay. It's just interesting framing here for getting me to click this. Cool. But now we're on the actual page. I see it.
It's basically a redesign that was done.
Yeah. Just taking a moment to read through this. Nate, you go ahead and finish reading it. I'm going to go ahead and give a quick thing about case studies. So when we're talking about a portfolio has typically 1 or 2 jobs, depending on what you're looking for. But in general, portfolio is like a mini you on the internet. And so it helps introduce you to people and connect with your values and then how you're valuable to them and their goals. And so key things that a portfolio must do is it must, one, express who you are, but it must also express how you align with someone else's goals and what they're looking for. So case studies are excellent in communicating this because they show little examples and stories about you, Pavan, and how you are doing stuff that's aligned with their goals. So specifically, if my goal is to find a UX or product designer who can solve my business problem, then a case study is an example of how you work with business problems to solve for UX design problems. And so clicking into this, some things I'm looking for is going to be, one, I need to see the skills that would market you as someone who is obviously proficient. You need to have good visual cues, but I'm also looking for a certain level of like confidence and communication as it is a business or a UX problem. So making it very obvious what the problem that you're trying to solve is, and then showing me why solving this problem makes you more valuable. And another way of stating that is just to say, making sure the story is about you, but told through the lens maybe of this case study. And so one thing we often remind people that, you're not here to sell me whatever this case study is about. You were here to sell me on yourself. And it just happens that while you were working on Orbit Shift, you're going to talk about Orbit Shift as you talk about yourself and talk about how you work through a problem. So that'll be one thing we probably talk about a little bit. There's also going to be certain like hierarchical things that help us, which is people don't tend to read full case studies. They tend to scan them. And so making sure you optimize a case study for scanning and for really quick ingestion also helps a lot as well. So I have a feeling this, and then the 1/3 item that I'll touch on, maybe if Nate's on the same page, it's also going to be about UX, is going to be about styling and making sure things feel consistent across the platform, like I'm on the same website. So those will be my 3 early contenders. Nate, where are you feeling? Is there something that's standing out to you, or should we pick one of those threads?
I've got a couple of things written down, but I want to hear about the 1/3 before we talk about these.
Okay. About which one?
I thought you had like a 1/3 strategy that you were wanting to talk about.
Oh, no. One of those threads. Okay. So, yeah, 1/3 does sound like a cool framework.
I thought you had something in your pocket that you were wanting to pull out. So if you don't have a pocket thing, I can dive into my stuff. Pavan, let me ask you here. You mentioned that you were targeting the role of product design. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's accurate.
Cool. I remember you hopped on here, I think it was a few weeks ago, right? When we ended up chatting, and I think that was the first time we had chatted, right?
Yes, it was a couple months back.
Oh my God, it was that long ago? Did we have a conversation about the difference between product design and UX design and UI design and the...
Yeah. We did. Yes, we did.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So if your goal is targeting product design, then I'd look for a shift in the case study you're writing away from that of UI design. And at the moment, you've got some screenshots in here that showcases the UI. And that's phenomenal if your goal is to target UI design. A UX design portfolio will totally still have some of that, but lesser so. And a product design portfolio will have some UI designs, but even lesser so still. So seeing that your case study only has imagery dedicated to final designs, I think is missing the goal of a product design targeted approach. What I'd love to see in a product design case study is a massive shift toward business goals and business outcomes and how you are telling the story to navigate toward those particular objectives, lesser than that of here are the UI design changes that I'm making. Here's the old, here's the new. Like, I don't care about that as much. I care about the consequences of that redesign. Let me pause there. How is that sounding so far? Is that making sense?
Yeah, it's making sense. Yeah, but I do have some pointers if I can point out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing about this project is that it was initially a UI redesign, which I was asked to do. But then I asked the company and I changed it to a UX redesign as well. So I would have added some contents, I would have changed some things from the existing pages, but overall the style was maintained and the internal process, I had to maintain that for the company. But I did add some few things with respect to the UX process that the user will be going through. So is there any better way to show that other than just adding screenshots?
So screenshots are great. The hurdle, the friction that I'm currently seeing is your screenshots at the moment feel like they're dedicated to UI, which is adjacent from your goal of what I would argue is 2 levels above UI, above UX, and then into product. So I would want to see more of an emphasis toward the business goals and business outcomes, really more of the process that you went through, not the final designs. It looks like you've got a lot of the dialogue here. It's just not being showcased because your screenshots are dedicated to the final output. Are you able to build some imagery here that's dedicated more toward the process?
Process really didn't have a lot of imagery with respect to the process because it was all done through online or it was done through face to face at random times. So there was really no pictures that could be taken for the process where the research was done. But yeah, that was the only problem with the research.
Yeah, think of this less as, so I think what you're describing is when I did my research and when I did the UX and product design process, there weren't any screenshots that I took along the way. Is that what you're attempting to say?
Yes.
Cool. I'm not as much worried about screenshots that you've taken along the way. I'm more interested in the artifacts that you built to validate your decision making. So for example, if we were to go from product design and go down in elevation to UX design, if we were to just look at a UX flow, I would expect to see other assets in your case study that you would commonly find in case studies. So things like user flows, journey maps, wireframes, wire flows, like any of the architecture that enabled you to process your decisions. Do you have any of those assets that you're able to add?
Yeah, I do have some wireframes and some user journeys with me.
Okay, great. So that's solving some of the UX stuff. If we were to elevate back up to product design, and if we are to loosely define product design as prioritizing solving business problems, do you have any artifacts that enable you to showcase how you negotiated stakeholder involvement, how you prioritize which portions of the solution you were trying to attack at any given time?
I think it's mentioned. I think if Tim scrolls down a little bit, he can see it. I can only see Tim's screen. I can't see your screen yet, so just telling what Tim has to screen. I think if he goes down, the 3 directions and the trade-offs that had to be made.
Gotcha. So I'm looking at the pink section and the green section?
Yes.
Cool. Excellent. Now we just need to find a way to present this visually. So what Tim was describing is because people don't read case studies, they only skim them. There are 2 sort of like main utilities we use to enable folks to consume content when they're skimming. One is storytelling through titles. We haven't talked about that yet. But the second is just imagery. Imagery is just so immensely persuasive and communicative for people scrolling quickly. It's so communicative quickly. So now your goal is, okay, can I take these pink sections and these green sections? Can I find a way to present those visually? Can I potentially reduce some of the written content and replace it with some sort of visual architecture here that showcases the process? If you're able to obtain that, if you're able for an image to communicate the same story, it will do so a billion times faster. And then, man, if you were able to do that over and over in your case study and make it consumable for that of skimmers and people that scroll through, it would be vastly more effective at communicating. How are you feeling? Like, is that making sense, trying to turn your textual content into more imagery focused stuff?
Yeah, got it. I understood.
How are you feeling about your capability there? Because I can present some examples if it's helpful for you. Otherwise, like if you're feeling like you've got a direction.
Any examples are appreciated.
Yeah. Tim, I'm going to take over Tim, if you don't mind just going to my own website here. This feels a little egotistical to pull up my own website. You got it. And let's just take a look at the first case study here. The reason I'm pulling up my own website here, Pavan, is that I'm also targeting product design. And as Tim scrolls through this, you will find that the majority of the imagery that I have, the visual interest here, is dedicated far more toward process than it is to that of like actual design output. So if your goal is to showcase to stakeholders like the business process that you're attempting to solve, you can take a look at my own case study here as a representation for how one could potentially communicate all that information in a visually dramatic way. I'll go ahead and post a link to it in the chat. Beyond that, Tim, I still want to talk about titling in storytelling in titles. And then I also pulled up a Notebook LM. I did a Notebook LM thing for Pavan as well, which I think will also showcase like the visual representation here.
I'm pulling out everything. Yeah. That's totally fine. I do have 3. I did post these in the chat, but I do want to cover these 3 items I posted in the chat, at least very briefly. So what do you think about our time economy for this?
Let's do your 3 things, and then I'll showcase Notebook LM very quickly, and we'll call it there.
Gotcha. So Pavan, throughout this project, you're doing an excellent job of describing what has happened. Like this is very objective in terms of like improved hierarchy, the solution ship sequential phases, right? We did this. I'm not seeing a lot of you inside of this though. You're doing a lot of talking about the actual project and what's happening. I would love this to be framed around Pavan because the problem that we need to solve with your portfolio is ultimately validating for someone who's reading this why Pavan is the world's greatest UX and product designer. And we say that with like a smile, like the world's greatest, but like truly, when I'm on your website, I should feel like you are the world's greatest UX and product designer because you have the ability to tell a story in such a way that you can frame a problem right in front of me and then show exactly how you work through that problem, what solutions, what thinking, what mentality you bring to it. And that is really, really important. So I would advise you to go through here and don't sell me on orbit shift. Sell me on why Pavan, why you are making decisions around orbit shift and how you're solving a problem for orbit shift, which means you need to have like a very relevant problem. It's got to be a real problem, which I'm not saying this one's not real, but just in general, you have to have a pretty solid problem statement and framework. And then you need to have a very good like drawing me throughout your solution. And so that is something I'd really be looking for. For number 2 is the scanning optimization. I think Nate talked about this a little bit, but I was gonna edit your I was gonna try to edit this, but everything seems to be. I think the extension I'm used to using is bugging out, or maybe it's just the framer canvas that you have here. But this is not very pleasant to look at in the sense of like scanning. We know that people tend to scan on the left side. Yeah, I can't even like select things on the left side. So you have overview here. I would just maybe consider making all these titles left aligned, so that way it's a little bit better anchored there. It needs more spacing for sure. These paragraphs, everything's very close together, and then I'm also noticing that this text is quite wide. It's kind of weird. We'll talk about the weirdness later, but it's a little bit wide. It's fine. It just is a little bit hard to read quickly and scan through. And then some of
Yeah.
your titling here could also probably use a little bit of a lift as well, and just making it so that like it's not just like the trade-offs I have to make, right? This is like leading me into a paragraph. Just make this carry the paragraph. So instead of saying the trade-offs that had to be made, say, uh, timing, solution, and something else were trade-offs that I had to make. All right. And so then you're even saying that
So
you're injecting
put
yourself in here.
solution into the got it.
Yeah. And so that's something you do. And then even, I mean, it's probably okay to have something that says like final designs. But I'm not sure, you may not need to lead it in with final designs. You can just probably include landing page, problem page, etc. But especially here at the top, like UX case study, this is something we often talk about frame-wise is when you think about the goal of someone who's visiting your website, does saying this is a UX case study really benefit me as a reader? Like this does not add any value to me. It doesn't help me understand your problem very things. So I would just go ahead and change this to a descriptive title here. You have duration, project type, and role. I don't think you need this section either. You could probably just zap this out of here. And then it becomes like a more narrative framework where it's like the exact title you have here maybe, or something similar, right? Like how I helped solve a student innovation platform, how I reduced churn for a student innovation platform, and won back users in a reactivation campaign, something along those lines, a little bit more UX coded, and then kind of just describing certain things. Now, one copywriting issue that also we see a lot is the if is this then that, like not this that. It's a classic Claude Code writing thing. Claude Code often writes sentences like, "It wasn't this thing, it was this thing." And so I'd really watch out for that. As soon as I read this, it flagged it as AI for me. I don't know if this is actually an AI written statement. Just letting you know, though, that's a common AI pattern that might be worth avoiding to avoid getting conflated with it, since it is something that appears really commonly in AI writing. And then the very last thing, very last thing is just making sure that, if I'm on this part of your website, this front page here feels very intentionally designed. Like it has a level of craft to it. There's probably some statements, some positioning we can work on here, but there is a level of like white space, positioning, animation, care, stylistic choices here, right? This has a certain style to it. I don't feel that style when I go here at all. This feels like a different website almost entirely. The spacing is different. The orientation is different. The widths of things is different. The colors aren't necessarily the same. It feels really different. And I would make it a goal to, if you strive for a level that you can approach everywhere. If your landing page looks a certain way, you've got to make sure your case study follows suit and feels like it's part of the same ecosystem. Otherwise, it creates a disconnect, and that it feels kind of jarring for people. Those are my 3 quick things for you, though.
Could you repeat the first one, Tim, again? Just didn't catch you at that time.
Yeah, the first one is about talking about yourself, making sure this is not a thing selling. It's not about selling, the project. It's about selling you. And so anytime you're talking about this, it should be about helping a reader understand exactly why this project illustrates that you're the greatest designer of all time, as they might say.
So thing is, like I did the entire thing. Like I had no one in my team. I was a solo person doing the entire thing. So I really didn't know whether to write everything in first person perspective, and it would seem a bit too uh, narrowed down and egotistical is what I thought if I write everything in first person perspective. So I just uh, took away all the I's and I changed it to we and shifted it more towards the product.
I don't think you need to do that, though. I think you should take more ownership. I think you should really own it. Maybe, I don't know if Nate's got that in it. Nate's also writing for a different audience. But even then, a lot of it is going to be like I demo this. Like Nate's taking ownership throughout his case studies. I do the same thing in mine. And some of the better writing we see, you're just making sure that you're injecting yourself, right? Like a person who comes here should not walk away being like, wow, I really understand orbit shift. They should walk away with an understanding, wow, I really understand Pavan now. I understand what his capabilities are and what kind of work he's able to do. That's like one of the metrics for success on writing a really good case study here. So it's not even necessarily using the I language or the we language, because you can use we language just fine. but it's just making sure that you are talking about it as someone who did the work, not someone who is reporting on work that has been done. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that's
Yes.
maybe just mincing words, but
Yeah, just
that's
take
the
more
general direction
ownership
to
is
go.
what you mentioned. Yeah. Okay. Other than that, I had another doubt. So the thing is that there was no real impact that could be measured because by the time I finished the project, my internship period just kind of got over, so I had to leave the company. And to get any numbers from the company regarding the project would take another couple months. So I had to like put this project in my portfolio as soon as possible to, to apply for more internships or jobs. So for this, for the impact thing, I just went with estimated impact. How does that sound?
Ooh, okay, yeah. Estimated impact is definitely a way to go.
I think it's there in the bottom. It's there in the bottom of the page.
Okay. One I'd be looking. One of the biggest things that happens is people who tack on, when you tack on an estimated impact, it can feel kind of out of left field if you haven't done the work of making me believe it. So it is, your impact, your expectations for impact should kind of be woven throughout the entire case study. So as I read it, I can naturally see we made this decision to move this lever, which should have this type of impact. And then by the end of it, you are able to round it up very nicely in like a bow and say like, yeah, my estimated impact based on everything that we've done here is around this and should be this, or, is reasonably expected to be this. And that way it feels very natural. And I have all the receipts. I can look back at any section and be like, yes, I see exactly how, phase 6 solution contributes directly into their impact, rather than just saying probably, navigation projects tend to have this amount of impact. So therefore I can say 20% impact. And it just helps it to feel a little bit less hollow.
Okay. So you're telling me to have more depth in the solution with respect to the impact.
Yeah. Nate, do you have a better way of describing what I'm talking about here?
I don't know that I do. If I were to reiterate, I would say that impact is the method of measuring one's momentum along the way. And to only talk about that metric at the end is a disservice to product design's core objective of solving business problems from the beginning. So if one's
Since it was an estimated impact, I just put it in the end. If it was an actual impact, I thought of putting it at the beginning. But since it was estimated, I put it towards the end.
Oh, that's an interesting line of thought. I don't know that I fully follow the logic there. Something that's kind of interesting about impact is that all impact is estimated, regardless of whether or not it is factual. That was maybe not the right word. Let's say that it's 2 years have gone by. We can take a look at the impact. Every time we take a look at the numbers and the data, there will always be variable. So even in best case situations, impact is estimated. Take that for what it's worth. Because, for example, if you were to go back to your case study and just remove the word estimated, your case study is now stronger and is still following in line with the rest of estimations available in other case studies.
Yeah. Okay.
Tim, let me take over the screen for just a minute. Pavan, what I want to do is I want to showcase Notebook LM. Did we talk about that when we chatted a couple of months ago?
No, you didn't mention anything about Notebook LM.
Okay, perfect. One of the things, and we've got to go real fast because we're going to hop on to the next person here. But the reason I'm showcasing Notebook LM is when Tim and I have these conversations Discord here on Design Buddies, we take a shotgun approach. I'm sorry, not a shotgun approach. We take a focused approach. There are so many things we could talk about, but it takes a lot of time. So instead, we talk about what we think are the most important things you need to do next. And then if you join us again, we can talk about the next most important things. There are a lot of things on your case study that Tim and I haven't talked about just yet. So that's where something like Notebook LM, I think, is going to come into play and then potentially enable you to take a shotgun approach to discovering all of those things in one go. So Notebook LM, it's a Google product, and it's another LLM like you're familiar with other things out there. Now, all I've done, and let me link this in the chat here. All I've done is I've loaded up Notebook LM. I've created a new document here, and I've just said, hey, take a look. I linked it directly to your case study, and that's the only data I provided it. Now, what's fascinating here is as I have enabled this to train on just your case study, I said, hey, generate a slide deck. And now it's going to generate a slide deck based on your case study. It's now regurgitating your case study in an LM fashion. So we get to see what your case study would have looked like if a robot would have written it. And there's a couple of things to note here. You'll find a lot of the imagery is fabricated, so you can ignore the imagery for the most part unless you want to take inspiration from it. The big thing here is the storytelling. Here's the method in which the robot is trying to tell the story. Here's the arc that it's finding. Here's how it's deciding to showcase what information is more important than other information. Your case study is currently textually dense, and that's what I think Notebook LM is going to assist with. If we were to quickly go through these slideshows, we can see engineering behavior scaffolding. It's going to give you some subcontext there. The problem wasn't adoption, it was attrition. Orbit Shift successfully attracted 4,000 active students. The complex data without visual hierarchy causes instant paralysis. So you can see it's regurgitating your story, but in a very storytelling format.
In a visual format.
Yeah. So really awesome tool to take inspiration from, enabling you to, without talking with Tim and I, to iterate on your designs very quickly and effectively. Great for anybody else in the chat here as well. Pavan, appreciate you hanging out with us today. Would love to chat with you again in the future and see where your case study ends up going.
Sure, Nate. Thank you so much, Nate. Thank you, Tim. Hope you guys have a lovely session. Good morning to you again.
Appreciate the time. Next on the list, Tim,
Good morning.
we've got mochiwaffles.
I recognize mochiwaffles. I'm going to invite you up to the stage. When you're up here, if you'll go ahead and introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then maybe what your goals are today.
Hello. My name is Aya, and I was here before with like an older version of my portfolio, so I basically just made a lot of changes. And last time I was here, I didn't have any case studies done, but now I have like one done that I'd like to focus on.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, I remember chatting with you in the past, and yeah, this is definitely not what it used to look like. Even up here, it's definitely a little bit of a change, and that's great. So just remind me how to say your name. It's Aya.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Kick me in the shins hard, mind you, when I say it wrong. I'm trying really good to be about saying people's names correctly, and I fail to do so. So we're going to look at probably this first one. Is that the one you want to talk about?
The climate game one.
I was just going to click on whatever first one is on this page. I'm not.
Oh, I only have one done. It's the like game.
Gender champions one, or
No, not that. The one that says about climate resilience.
am I on the wrong?
I'm not seeing one about climate.
Yeah, am I on the wrong website?
That's the same one I'm
No,
on.
it's like the Fort project.
Driving action to support Kiribati's climate resilience efforts. Ah.
Cool. Okay, very cool. Now remind me a little bit about your line of work. For example, you have on here that you're a learning experience designer. I remember chatting with you about that in the past. Is that still your goal right now?
Yeah.
Okay. And then are you still in the position where right now your goal is to find such a job versus maybe more casually looking? This is like more like you're actively looking for stuff.
Actually, I did find a job since last time I was here, so
Oh,
I just like
congratulations.
thank you. So I'm just like finishing my portfolio, like keeping it up to date, especially the case studies.
Okay. And then before we give you an onslaught of stuff, this is just for me, since I give lots of feedback on stuff like this. What is your level of like technical proficiency with your website? Are you comfortable like doing like basically getting really into the weeds of your website, or are you a little bit more gentle-handed, accepting defaults for it?
Um, maybe like intermediate.
Intermediate, a safe choice. I like it. Okay, cool. Cool. Give me a second to kind of go through your case study and kind of see what I see, and then I'll point stuff back out to you. But I will give you the caveat that Nate and I, maybe I'll just speak for me. Maybe Nate will agree or disagree. I'm not a specific learning experience designer specialist. And so in that regard, there's probably going to be some things I'm missing. So I will be looking for more of the general broad things that case studies typically do well, and looking to see if you can bring me along the way. But in terms of like the specific copywriting that we were just giving on the previous one, may not have as much insight for you, since that's not something I specialize in, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tim, I'm scrolling through this. I think they're doing a lot of things really well.
In terms of aesthetics and communication style, I mean,
It looks great.
I think they might be pretty good at teaching. So I think this is probably a good flex in their ability to do some of this stuff. There's a couple of things I'm noticing from like a UI standpoint that could maybe bear a little bit of a lift, but overall, none of the content seems to be faulty.
Your titles lean into storytelling heavily. Absolutely well done there. From a skimmability and scrolling attraction perspective here, like every time I scroll, there's just new visual interest. It captures my interest and maintains it. Io, help me out here. So Tim and I, our backgrounds being more in the product design space, we don't know much about your target audience. Like I can certainly speak from an enterprise perspective. Tim can speak from a bunch of different startup perspectives. Are you able to talk about your target audience and what they're specifically looking for in learning experience design?
I was trying to focus on like showing like the strategy side, like yeah, that's like what I was trying to focus on.
Sure. And you're doing, I can see some of that here. Like here's a section entitled The Concerns and Why We Scrapped It, showcasing that you're testing and iterating your methodology along the way. A very cool section that I'd love to see. You typically don't see failure points like that within lower tier case studies. You typically see like the directions and dead ends and the sacrifices one is willing to make in mid-level and senior level folk. So like, I think you're already well ahead of the game here. The reason I'm asking you about your target audience is because when Tim and I review portfolios, we look for those, what are the top 5 things we can talk about? And I don't have a clean answer for you here. There's no quick top 5 things that I would adjust here. Hence my goal of diagnosing more about your target audience and what their goals are versus my knowledge of their goals, right? There are certainly, like there are some minute things here we can talk about. Like your website asks permission for cookies, which is unusual, but like I think that's probably just the service you're using. You've got a watermark down in the corner. I'd love to find a way to get rid of that, but like these are real minor optimization things. Tim, how are you feeling about the rest of the content here? Because I don't know that I have any like further direction without a better understanding of her target audience.
Yeah, I have a suspicion that the biggest knob for your content writing is kind of the same thing we talked about with Pavan, which is making sure that you're talking about yourself, that the item that you're trying to sell is you versus the project. And that is the difference between someone who's basically making a persuasive argument versus making a like research report. As I'm reading this, it is, again, very objective. The information is very good. It is compelling to read in terms of report. At the same time, I do wonder if I was to read this full thing, the difference between, well, I mean, even here, I do see it quite a bit. I see you in a lot of it. So I'd be looking to see though if that optimization holds. That would be one thing I would want to measure. And I think you'll have to be the person who can decide that, since we don't have time to read the full case study today. But especially in this top section, I'd be looking a little bit more for that, since this is more high level versus talking about you. I want to see you in this first top section, since this is where people are probably going to spend the majority of their bandwidth here. Also, this image up here. This image is interesting because I think this is a scene from the game. So it is technically an image of the product, but this image does not bring me personally a lot of value. I don't understand what I'm looking at. And because the render of it is a little bit on it's hand drawn. I'm pretty sure it's hand drawn, right? Is this hand drawn?
Yeah.
That's great. Excellent hand drawn. But at the same time, does not necessarily have the same like sharp retina pixel fidelity that you might expect to see like for text, for example, right? Certain level of like clarity. And I don't know if this is serving you very well as a hero image, even though it is absolutely a very good like piece of art that's inside of your project. So I'm wondering if there's maybe an opportunity to put something up here that is a little bit more like aesthetically compelling, that communicates more value about your project as well and where you sit within that project. And then there's a couple minute things like Nate was saying. So like, for example, your impact section, you have an impact section. I can't actually ingest what your impact section says, because as I scroll, it collapses on itself. So I don't know what some of these are, and it happens very fast. So this would be like a setting, just making sure that these roll up at a different time, or maybe not even having this roll up ability here. Like it's probably fine if they're just stacked, so I can read them and see them versus them all hiding away so soon. Very cool feedback though. And then I do have a question for you. Are you aware of mobile design work for this? Are you planning to do any mobile design work on your website?
Yeah, I only did the mobile version of the homepage and the about page.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I would definitely say, in a perfect universe, I would be able to tell you for sure people who are hiring are looking from a computer at your website. Unfortunately, there are people who are looking at your website through their phones only. And so there is an importance to making sure that your website is prepared for someone who's only on their phone to look at your stuff. So I would, just in case you weren't planning on doing that, I just remind you, make some time to do it. Otherwise, I honestly, like, I think this is a great, it's already pretty well put together. The opportunities are fairly low.
I think you're I think you're killing it. The next steps for you to finish writing some of those other case studies, knowing that this is the only case study you've written so far. Let's move this one to the very first case study on your portfolio. What's holding you back now from working on the other ones?
It just takes me really long to write them.
Yeah, it sucks. It's the hardest thing in the world to do is write case studies, but you're killing it so far, and I'm excited to see the others.
Okay. Do you have maybe any feedback on the rest of the site? Because I changed a lot from the last time.
Yeah, we can tell. It looks great. So this is where
it does.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of interaction things. Like I would say in terms of the normal user who's going to be on your website, I think absolutely stylistically you're fitting the bill. There's probably going to be a couple of people who are a little bit more technically inclined, who will look at certain items on your website and be like, gravity, but has a weird easing effect on it. And that can be a little bit off-putting. But like, that's it's like a very minute thing. You're also not a UI designer or an interaction designer. So there's like a certain level of like, could you technically make these feel more realistic when they're falling? Yeah, but like, I don't really think that's your job. I don't think you're going to be graded for that. I don't think that's something that's super applicable for you. I think there's maybe some opportunities for just layout help. You can see as you look at these, they slowly become unaligned. And I don't know if that's on purpose or not. It doesn't feel like it's on purpose. Maybe at the end, it feels like it could have been on purpose. But in the middle and the start, it doesn't feel like it was on purpose. So it feels like maybe there's just something in here, like this has an extra line of text or something that could use some optimization. Right. So there's a couple like little tiny things in here, but they're the kind of things that honestly, like, I think you should celebrate having to work with, right? Like if you're looking at your site and you're like, yeah, I'm basically fixing a line error, I think you're in a really good place for what you have. It's compelling enough to look at. You're introducing yourself. You're stating your goals. Um, Maybe some of your positioning statement we could make a little bit more specific and unique to you. However, I think you're also a very good copywriter, and I think that as you finish wrapping up some of these case studies, you'll want to come back and you'll want to say, hey, now that I've done all my case studies and I know my position, I can now speak very clearly exactly to the position statement that I'm ready to make for myself.
Okay. Do you have any like tips on like figuring out your positioning?
Yeah, it's like yeah, we got a couple. We have a couple of things on here. I think that's probably deserving of a different conversation though with you, maybe next week or a future week, just because there's so much thought that goes into it. My counsel though would be to consider why you like to do your work, what motivates you, and then what you typically are able to accomplish for people, and just identifying like the core values that are evident inside of your projects, right? Any claim that you make up here should basically be reaffirmed by anything I read in here. And so like it should be very natural for me to say in the same sentence, yes, AO is a learning experience designer who bridges the technical and creative with a background in science as she drives action and support for climate resilience efforts and educational gameplay. There should be like a level of coherence and fluidity between those. And so sometimes it requires that you actually go finish these first, and then you update your statement, and then you go update your case studies, and then you go update your statements, and you kind of go back and forth until you find the medium that you're looking for. What would you say, Nate?
There are so many things we could talk about in regard to positioning. My background is in marketing. Half the books behind me are about marketing. Positioning is a massive topic by which degrees are made at colleges, right? So big conversation, no quick tips for you on like how to build that positioning there. All kinds of different directions we could go. Would love to chat about it in a future session.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Tim, looking at the list, next up we've got Tolu. Tolu, if you're out there, put your hand up.
I actually don't see Tolu up next. I see Elsie.
Oh, did I skip Elsie? There were a bunch of links in the chat today that weren't hyperlinked, and they're easy to skip. So it's very...
They are.
Oh, I've got Elsie after Tolu. Hang on.
I don't see a message from Tolu. Am I missing it? So I've got Pavan, mochiwaffles. Thanks, guys, for going so far. And then I've got Elsie, and I've got Towns.
There is... Oh. There is no... I wonder if they deleted their message. Because I pinged them in the chat, so it's a real person. They must have just removed their message. So we'll move on to Elsie.
All right, Elsie, you are up. As you come on the stage, will you go ahead and introduce yourself, a little bit about what you do, and maybe what some of your goals are today, how we can specifically help you. And remember, the more information you can share, often the better our feedback can be for you as we collaborate together. Yeah, I heard something, but it was very far away.
Elsie, we heard a little bit of a mic there. Oh, try again.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Elsie. I just want to say I appreciate you all doing this. Got a lot of feedback and just from watching this, just to apply to my own portfolio. But I'm on here. I'm looking for a new job. I'm a freelancer right now, but I'm just looking to get feedback on what I can improve so that I can work on that and focus on that.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your line of work? You're a freelancer right now. Are you looking to no longer be a freelancer? Are you looking for more clients? Are you looking to go like full time with a corporation or a small business? And then what kind of role are you trying to fulfill?
Yes. So I'm a freelancer right now. I did work in an agency for a while, but I just decided to explore how freelancing was. But I definitely want to get back just to be a part of a team and not have so much stress of like advertising and everything that comes with freelancing. Um, I am looking to get like a corporate job, just settle full time with that and leave freelancing behind.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Moving from freelance into full time, while probably keeping yourself available for freelance contracts along the way.
Yes.
Okay.
Real
And
fast,
then
Elsie, how do you
specifically,
feel about agency? Are you also interested in working back for an agency, or are you just thinking enterprise?
Oh, agency or pretty much anything that aligns with what my skills are. So I'm a graphic and web designer. So anything that agencies definitely a
Gotcha.
possibility.
So I'm hearing less of a priority on the industry and more of a priority on just not freelance, working with the team again.
Right. Yes.
Cool.
very cool. Very cool. That's interesting. Today, Elsie, do you want us to talk about we have kind of a couple of different routes we can go. We're going to choose one just for time and kind of efficiency. We can chat sometimes with people about like their website as a whole and specifically their positioning statements and like how they're marketing themselves to people. That might be something you're already pretty keen on if you do marketing for yourself. We sometimes can talk about like general things about like how to make your website like feel like it's the right fit. And we can also go into case studies and talk a lot about case studies and making sure that you're communicating the right things for people. Those tend to all be slightly different tracks, though. Is there
Right.
one of those that appeals to you more than the others, or you feel like would be better for you?
I think maybe a case study, the one that you were just on the fauna, just to see what like where I stand with that, I guess.
Okay, sounds good. We'll try to give you some other tips along the way, but keeping in mind that we're working towards a pretty good case study building. Now, of course, people are probably going to experience case studies from the lens of your landing page. That's the first place they're going to go when they're clicking into it. And I do want to comment that right now, this case study work, this button here, is not doing a lot of work for me. Well, the image is doing a lot of work, but I do want to note that we're maybe missing an opportunity to frame this case study a certain way and to help me know what to expect and to be like wowed by it. We typically call this like descriptive titles. Like we have very descriptive titles and packing it with information that leads someone to understand and make a decision between case studies. Right now, if I look at these, the difference between them is light and dark, right? This one might be more typography related, I guess. This one could be more 3D product render related, when really the difference might actually be something completely different. And I'd be looking for something that helps me, one, see the work that you contributed to the studio through or to Fauna through, and then two, how do I know which one is right for me to spend my time on? So that'll be our teaser insight for maybe if we ever do talk about landing page with you. Nate, you good to jump into this?
Yeah, sure am. I love the aesthetic of the Fauna brand.
Thank you.
The parallaxing is cool. Yeah.
So one of the friction points that Tim and I have is our expertise lies in product design, right? So when it comes to visual identity and industries that dive much more into the artistry portion, we tend to have A, less experience, and then B, we dive into more subjective stuff real fast. And we try to steer away from subjectivity. So I know that Tim and I are going to struggle a little bit when it comes to like providing the best, most effective feedback for you. That said, Tim, I kind of want to talk about environment formations here. Like they're not sure if they're totally okay to targeting agency and enterprise or corporate. But those are two fairly different audiences. And at the moment, I would argue the portfolio is positioning you, Elsie, closer toward that of agency, whether for better or worse. You'll have to tell me.
Yeah, let me do some quick insights for her on this case study, and then we'll jump into that conversation more properly.
Sounds good.
So, as we mentioned before, one of the main goals of any case study of any website is to introduce you, and to also set a tone for like how do you meet the goals that I'm looking for. People come to websites not typically to browse, but to like solve a problem. And so if I come to Elsie's website, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? This is where your audience becomes essential, as Nate's going to talk about. Like optimizing for your audience makes all the difference, because agency people have different problems than enterprise people. And by the way, who even is an enterprise person who works at these corporations that want to hire, and understanding who is the actual person that you're probably attracting that you need to convince. But even then, going into these, one of the goals is to explain why they should choose you and how you are accomplishing an effective use for your role. That sentence made no sense. To re-say that sentence so it does make sense is basically making sure that someone comes here and they see that you are a good version of what you are claiming to be. And I am seeing here that you claim to be visual identity, digital interfaces. I'm not seeing any role titles that you're accomplishing or going for. So it's a little bit hard to put a label on you. You feel a little bit more abstract, and that could weaken you because it doesn't feel like you're claiming specialty in anything. But even still, from a visual identity, digital interface perspective, I don't see almost any digital interfaces in this whole thing. There's no digital interfaces here. But from a visual standpoint, a lot of these visuals leave me hanging, right? Like I do not have a good explanation or an idea of like your process or different versions that you've gone through. You're essentially showing me the final result without a lot of in-between work, which means this is very cool if I want to experience the Fauna brand. It is not very cool if I'm trying to experience the Elsie brand, because I have no idea what Elsie's process is or exactly how she's coming to these conclusions. Unless it's true that you just did this on your very first try. This is all just like you pulled this out of your brain and you were done. But I am missing like, it's cool that you have these here, but when you're talking about why did you choose this background, what were maybe different versions of this? Was there anything here that you didn't choose or go with? I'm missing all that storytelling in the middle that helps me feel like this is something I belong to. I often describe this a little bit as triple J, which is your jolt, your journey, and then your jackpot. And the purpose of any of these is really just to help someone want to go down your trust ladder, and therefore, like, we're thinking about the jackpot. The jackpot for your website is someone chooses to hire you for the job because they say your goals match my goals, and so we're now a match. And so thinking about the journey that they need to take before they're ready to commit money into you is you probably need to make them feel like, one, you're good at what you do, but also two, they understand what you're doing and they want to buy into that philosophy. In terms of Jolt, that's our visual aesthetic and stuff. You already have that down. As Nate mentioned, like it looks very good. It's just missing the journey aspect of it. There's nothing in here that's telling a story about how you came to this conclusion or why this is powerful. There's nothing that contextualizes essentially where this is going, other than just being some pretty cool visuals of a can of, I guess this is tea or soda, some sparkling drink of some kind. Very aesthetic, but it's just missing the persuasive elements here. Is that okay for me to say, Elsie? Do you feel like that rings true, or am I missing something?
Oh, I agree with that. I'll definitely say that you said that.
Yeah. I'd also, even going through here, there might be a couple of opportunities to just make the aesthetic really ring true. Like up here, you establish a certain identity, right? You have this kind of like grid layout, very big spacing, very delicate feeling. You have the parallax effects, feels very delicate, very, very cool. And then it kind of feels like you may have lost a little bit of that style here, like turning this into a white background probably would help a little bit, just making it feel like you have enough space here. This ends up being very fast instead of it feeling the same level of like delicate intentionality here, over here. Even having this interface kind of overlap on top of it. Maybe that is. I guess there's our digital interface. There's our user interface you're talking about. Maybe more of this, or having this kind of like its own section so it gets a chance to be alive the same way a lot of these images feel like they're galleried or alive. And then down here, we have this big image, but it's kind of overlapping on these other big images. And so it's a lot of like visual noise here without time to ingest what I'm looking at. And even when you do have explanations, they're a little tiny, and I could use some more there. So that would be that's my overall. Now, when we talk about like, well, what content should you write now? What parts of the process should you point out? How long should you draw this out? That comes back to your audience, which is going to be different for everyone. Agency, enterprise, small, medium businesses are all going to be a little bit different, which is why it's going to be important to figure out your positioning there. So I'll hand that back over to Nate.
Yeah, Tim, let me take over the screen for a moment here, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Elsie, let me ask you real fast. You had mentioned earlier you were okay looking for agency or corporate. When you say the word corporate, what are you thinking? What comes to mind?
I was actually looking more for agency. Corporate, I don't know how that came across. I don't know what I said to bring that up.
Totally understand. That's why I was wanting to talk about it, because I couldn't tell if it was like fully purposeful that you were talking about corporate, or if you were just meaning to say that you were looking to not do freelance anymore. And it sounds like you're just looking to not do freelance. So if that's the case, like I've got a whole spiel about different target audiences for enterprise and corporate and agencies and all that. But I don't think we need to talk about the entirety of that conversation then. So instead, what I want to talk about, and I still pull up the graphic, but I only want to talk about half of it. There's a conversation about how teams are formed within organizations here. And I promise this conversation is going to start very abstract, and I promise you it's going to circle back to your portfolio and then ideally present some sort of philosophy that we can look for in your portfolio and how you target your audience. And then at IO, if you're still on the call, we were talking about positioning and quick tips for positioning. This is one of the positioning conversations we could potentially have in the future. So agencies typically utilize a more centralized, what's referred to as a centralized team. And this graphic says UX team. You can ignore that. Agencies in general typically have what are referred to as more centralized teams. And the idea here is that there is typically a manager that houses all of the creatives within that particular agency, and they manage all the creatives. You've worked at agencies in the past. Is that sounding familiar to you? Like you weren't on an individual product pod. You worked underneath a creative director or of some kind, and they manage a bunch of creatives. Is that sounding familiar?
Yes, and yeah, that definitely does.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And that's a very common story for that of agencies. Now, there are advantages and sacrifices to every team formation here. One of the sacrifices, or one of the like oddities that centralized teams typically work around, is that let's say you are the creative director here and you need to hire another creative to work at your agency. Now, because this creative director is managing all of these other creatives here, they typically aren't looking for that of generalists. The idea is like, if I've got more clients coming and I need to hire somebody because we have more effort, well, I've got Jim over here who's really good at photography. And then I've got Stacy over here who's excellent at illustration. And then I've got Joe who's really good at logo design. So like what creative can I add to my team to enhance the skill set of my entire department? So in centralized formations like this, folk typically prioritize hiring specialization of some kind, specialists, those with a specialized skill set in a particular direction. So circling back to your case study here, I'm not sure that I'm seeing a specialization in some fashion. Now, this isn't like an end-all be-all true statement. There are still people that find success without specialization here, but we can strengthen your portfolio if we were to find some methodology of like differentiating you from that of other creative candidates. Let me pause there. Is that making sense to you so far? Is that all sounding okay?
It does, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so now I'm thinking, if we go back to like your main homepage here, we have a generalistic view of like, here's the creative visual identity stuff that you've done. Do you know of, like, is there a skill set that you have that differentiates you from that of other creative candidates that we could potentially position you around and showcase you as a different person?
Not that I know of. No.
This is a really tough thing to do, by the way. And this is the challenge that every designer in the world has. There are all kinds of ways to differentiate. In this particular case, I would argue a skill set differentiation makes a lot of sense. There are other differentiators, industry, for example. Like you could be a creative that specializes in weddings, for example. And all the effort that you do, all the visual identities that you do are for weddings. That's a very applicable audience that you could do that differentiates you. But it also,
We do see that she's already specializing for particular brand keywords, right? With longevity and aesthetic precision. So Elsie, those are things you can continue to lean into, right? So you could go even more specialized with those, or you could make those more ubiquitous across your entire positioning statement. Because those would be types of positioning, even though they don't have the same bite as like industry or skill sets.
yeah, I like that thought. I like that thought a lot. So anyway, food for thought here. There isn't like a main actionable for you then just yet. The next step would be, well, can I find success with my current positioning, which is more generalistic? And you possibly could. Could I make it stronger with any sort of specialization? Probably. But now the challenge is, what is that specialization and how can I then apply it and showcase that in my portfolio? Really tough thing to do. But I think if I were in your shoes, that would be a top of priority thing for my mind as you're engaging back into the workforce.
Okay, thank you.
Specifically, if you're looking for agencies. If you're looking for enterprise, it's a whole different ballgame. But agencies are a lot of fun. And there's a very stressful world. I worked at an agency myself many years ago. I much prefer enterprise. I don't know how you have a work to life balance ratio. Agencies are so hard.
Yeah, they are.
Tim, I don't have anything else on my plate. How are you feeling?
I've got one more thing I want to throw up for her, which let me see if I can find the right page. I've got one more thing that might just be a little bit helpful when we're talking about this. So, when you're figuring out your audience, you need to figure out exactly the person who's looking at your website. And if you think about an agency, agencies might be looking for people who can tackle certain types of projects, right? So they're just like Nate was saying, like they have skills. They're looking for people who have very specific this is terrible. Very specific skill sets, right? And so making sure that you have differentiated skill sets, this often leads to better agency results. But when you're looking at like a corporate enterprise or anything like that, the person who's going to be looking at your website is typically going to come down to first. It'll be like a recruiter. Oh, this is terrible. But then it goes down to like an HR professional. And then eventually it'll be like a technology, creative person, someone who's like a coworker. I'll say coworker. Someone who basically has the same skill set as you. And the drawing is so bad here. But when you're thinking about like, what does a recruiter know about your job? They almost know nothing. They have no idea. So they're looking at like a job description. So it's going to be a job description match. There might be like keyword matches that they're looking for. It might be like a vibe check, right? But not like really being able to read or understand your case studies. And so if you do want to find yourself being successful inside the enterprise or small, medium business world, you're just gonna have to learn how to speak to these people to help them have the confidence to say, even though I have no idea what a technical or digital creative technologist looks like, I feel like this person must be it, and I'm approving them to go talk to the next person. And this is the make or break between interviews here. And so it's okay to maybe you might say like dumb down your portfolio a little bit, or even like over communicate certain things sometimes, because it helps people get hooked on here and they understand what they're looking at a little bit more. This is where your explanation of process and taking more time to talk about this and bringing someone along the way really benefits you. And these HR people, they also are not going to be able to judge or evaluate creative work very effectively most of the time. So they're going to be looking for more like brand fits. Like, is this person on brand for our company? Are they a real person? Do they seem cool? And then finally, it goes into this technical creative world, right? So, and just reminding, in terms of like audience, like these are very different. Like even for an agency, like someone who's an agency person, they might be like the actual person, like the owner of the agency might be looking for members of their team to like add to the team, versus in the business world, it's going to be like people who don't know much about the role who you then have to go through. And so optimizing for these two different audiences can be very different, and deciding which one to pick and to work most towards can make a really big difference in terms of who you're successful with. So as you think about your positioning, just keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time today, Elsie. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you guys. I appreciate all your feedback.
Next on the list, we've got Towns. I pinged them in the chat. Are they
They're
still?
not here right now.
Towns is taken
No.
off. Yeah, I saw they were offline. Then skipping Towns, next is, how does one say this? Maniaco Design. If you're out there, stick your hand up.
They're no longer here.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's all the folk I had on my list. There are other folks in the chat that have since added links that I've told them we no longer have space for, but clearly that's not the case.
Mehak, I think, is on here. I'm gonna go invite you to the stage. I do see your portfolio list here, and then we've got. They're not here. Yeah, we'll go from here. Go from here. Hello. So how do we say your name? What's the right way to say your name?
So it's Mehak.
Mehak.
Yes.
Okay, and remember, just like everyone else, you get to kick me really, really hard in the shin when I say it incorrectly, which most certainly will probably happen. No fault of your own. That would be my fault. Will you tell us a little bit about who you are, and then maybe what goals we can help accomplish today?
So I am a UX researcher. I recently graduated in March. I'm fairly new in this field. It has been a career transition for me, and making this portfolio has been even more difficult. Anyways, so my goal for here is I'm really having trouble trying to, because I'm more towards researcher, but then when I'm applying to jobs, I feel like my portfolio needs to have a lot of UI elements in it too. So I'm really confused about what direction my portfolio should be and whether what I'm doing is really what you said in previous portfolio reviews, that it needs to speak about me and my brand. Like if they don't know me and they open my portfolio, they should be instantly able to tell who I am and what I'm capable of. So I'm wondering if this portfolio is actually delivering that. And basically, because I'm also in the market to get a job for a UX researcher, I can design, but not as, I would say, research is my domain. So yeah, I guess that's what I want to know. What do I need to change? And like, is this positioning me for a good UX researcher or not?
A positioning and landing page assessment seems in order, Nate. What do you think?
Sounds great. Mehak, what's your background in before you repositioned to UX research?
So I have been a jack of all trades. So I've worked in a lot of industries in the past. In the e-commerce industry, I worked in fintech. I worked in project environment. So yeah, I've done a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, I realized that I want to do something creative, etc. So that is where I pivoted. So yeah.
Very cool. You're using vocabulary and parlance that suggests you've got a business acumen background, and I'm excited to talk with you here.
I'm excited to get some feedback because I've been really scared to get feedback on this.
Tim's real mean.
I can be if you want.
I want you to be mean
it's against my nature. It's against my nature. So
yeah.
I would say I don't. This will be my 30-second soapbox aside. I think meanness can help people grow. I have not encountered a situation where meanness was a less effective way of helping people grow compared to kindness and other maybe more positive forms. And so true, being mean does sometimes help people, but I've always seen positivity be a better motivator for
mean,
others.
but in a nice way. So I can actually take that meanness and convert it into like
I prefer bluntness and directness, but not meanness or rudeness.
Okay. Yeah, there's a
So
fine
let's
line.
chat about
Yes.
this. So first of all, let's address, just so we have this out. It does look to me, looking at your code and looking how this is, that this is probably made with AI assistance. Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay.
Yes. Because I don't really have a background in coding, etc. Um, and so this is like something I do have like a really beginner level base for coding. So I decided that I will take AI assistance in code and then I can change a little bit where feel like I need changing manually in this code. But I'm not writing it
Mhm.
from scratch, to be fair.
Okay, that's totally
I
fine.
did write one from scratch, but that was so basic. I felt like that's not gonna get me anywhere. So then I was like, AI it is.
I do want to ask what your comfort level is then if we do suggest stylistic changes, how much control or like finesse you think you can apply to your website.
Because I am doing this all through coding. I'm not really using any website designing other websites. Um, so I think I can move around well within using AI assistance, and I can like do manual changes if need be.
Okay, that's cool. So Nate, do you want to start off the positioning, the spiel here, or should we give it our good? Or should I give it a good gander?
What Tim is describing is the very first section we've got there, the hero section, typically has what we refer to as the value prop. And value props are just so consequential in regard to describing very quickly who you do, what you are, what you do. Bear with me. It has been a week. Who you are, what you do, who's your target audience, and what's the benefit you're trying to provide that target audience. And that goes
Why you do it?
That goes a real long way. I'm going to paste a screenshot in the chat here. It's just a screenshot of my own website. The reason I'm bringing this one up specifically is because my value prop is about as specific as one can possibly get. So if we look at the two extremes here, oh yeah, Tim, just pull it up. If we look at the two extremes of like the value prop being as generalistic as possible and value props being as specific as possible, this is the other side of the equation. Enterprise healthcare agile design, 15 years of product design, leading $40 million agile teams through consulting across decentralized product orgs. Like that's a very specific target audience that I'm going for. The benefit here being that I know exactly who my target audience is. When that target audience has a job position available, I am one of the higher ranked candidates for that position. The sacrifice being I can now apply for fewer jobs because I'm being positioned very specifically for one specific industry. Now, all the marketing books behind me will argue that focusing on a particular niche like that is the most effective way to go, and I would agree with that. So circling back, oh, what's Tim drawing here? He's got cat ears. Now he's got a flag. It's the two mountain peaks. So as Tim's drawing this, if we circle back to your own value prop, the hurdle currently is that it doesn't differentiate you from that of other candidates, nor describe any particular industry that you're looking for. I research spaces between people and products, uncovering what users need, feel, and do. I translate complexity into clarity that design teams can act on. If I were to take that content and put it on Tim's portfolio, it still makes sense, right? So that's the first thing that we could potentially shift in regard to positioning you for a target audience of some kind. The barometer of success there being, if you can take your value prop and put on somebody else's portfolio, it should no longer be able to make sense to them. Easy metric for success there. How are you feeling about all of that so far? Is that making sense? Is it too abstract? Is it completely different direction from the way you want this conversation to go?
No, this is exactly where I want to go, but I have like a follow-up question to what you just said. So because I'm a beginner, I'm going to be really honest. When I'm looking for a job, I'm not really picky about in terms of what industry because I'm looking towards getting more experience. So I can, so I'm not picky. And with your value proposition, you've got some experience that you can put on there. You've worked, you have some stuff that you can put up there and tell them that, this. For me, I'm a beginner and I don't I don't have teams working for me, and I don't have a certain years of experience, etc. So, what is a value proposition for a beginner? Like, if I don't have those numbers.
Yes. The value prop for a beginner is the direction you want your career to go. Rule number one of marketing is marketing is a battle of perception. It's not a battle of the product. So whatever perception you want to build is how you should then position yourself. You ever heard the phrase like you wear the clothes for the job that you want, not the job that you have? So then you
Yeah.
show up to work as Batman because that's the job you want. It's kind of the same thing here. So we just need to dress you up as Batman then. Let me talk about this in a different way. So let's say you're a beginner, you just graduated, and you are among all the graduated folk who are also beginning this career. Now, let's say 100 people in your class graduated, they're all in UX research, and they're all applying for jobs out there. Now your goal is how can I stand out from those 100 peers of mine when applying for jobs? So one of your peers applies for a job, and they are a generalist. They just, or like you apply for a job and it's your current value prop, which is very generalistic. Somebody else applies for the same job, but in their value prop, they write specializing in financial resources. If you're applying for that financial resources job, they'll have an advantage. Even though they have no experience in that industry whatsoever, they're building the perception that they've got that experience there. So then the question is, well, what direction do you feel like your career should go? And as an entry-level candidate, your immediate gut reaction might be, well, I don't have opinions on that just yet, except you probably do. For example, are you within the United States?
Yes.
For example, the United States probably heading toward a recession in the upcoming years. And there are industries that are healthier in times of recession than other industries. For example, financials and healthcare, two industries real strong during times of recession. So you may want to start positioning yourself to not lose your job in 4 years from now, right? So you probably
This is
have
not financial advice, by the way.
I am not a lawyer. Don't take this as legal advice. So you have opinions here more than you think you do. And now it's just a matter of figuring out, well, what are my goals in my career? What are my goals in life? And how can I position myself for a job that matches those goals? And that's how we then write you a value prop that meets those expectations. That's the objective, at least. All of that, I know that's real easy to say on paper, very tough to do in real life. But how are you feeling about that? Do you feel like you've got any sort of actionable that you can now take in regard to finding what direction you want to go with your value prop?
Definitely yes, but I do still honestly feel a little lost.
That's understandable. Value props are real
Yeah.
tough. Tim, walk us through. Do you still want to walk us through the two mountains, the two peaks?
Yeah, and
I'll just say,
I would
go
also
say your
want
thing.
to go through one of the case studies and see how I'm doing on that front as well. Once we're done with this, if we have time.
I would say we could probably pause here and take a brief look at a case study, but for the sake of how we manage our time, we
Okay.
typically only do one of these paths at a time. Would you
Okay.
like us to stop the positioning statement to look at a case study?
Um,
I can tell you, I'm
let's
looking
do
through your.
let's do the positioning, and then I'll hop in the next session and make sure.
That's what I was
Put
going
my
to say.
link in the first 6 months. Yeah.
I'm looking through your case studies, and they look great. I think the positioning is more valuable for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So like Nate was saying, a lot of times in business, as you know, in business, strategy is often a case of what you want and what you'll give up to get there. To be seen as a compelling candidate often means that you cannot do two things at the same time, right? To be at the top of a mountain means you cannot, by definition, be at the top of a second mountain at the same time. And if you try to aim for both mountains to be the best at both of these things, you end up right in the middle, which is the lowest point of a mountain, is the valley between them. And so trying to find your specialty can really give you a better statement. Even if you want to be 75, 25 something, you still end up at least halfway up the mountain, which is a higher up and better position than being right in the middle of them all. There's an exercise that I sometimes will recommend people. We call it our love, our value, and then our are money. Love, value, money. And so the idea behind this whole exercise is to say, if I look at previous industries that I've ever worked at, for example, maybe I worked in healthcare, or maybe there was a specific manager, Jim, or we'll say Nate. I worked for a person named Nate in the past who's not related to this Nate at all. Or maybe there's a specific type of team. I was on an agile team. And if you start to look at these things historically and you say, well, when I was working inside this industry, did I enjoy it or did I dislike it? And then you can say, was I able, as for our value, did I have the right skills here? Was I actually doing meaningful work for the team? Was I making the team better or worse? Yes or no? And then finally, you can say, does this support financially my career expectations, what I think the work is worth, et cetera? And as you kind of break down historically what's happened for you in these categories, you'll start to see trends and patterns, and you can learn something about yourself about where you want to be. And then you can break these down even further and say, like, yeah, it was healthcare, this part of healthcare, or it was this job that I had in 2017. I was working in a volunteer org. Turns out volunteer orgs don't have a lot of money, and if I keep working for volunteer orgs, I'll have no money one day. And maybe that does or doesn't align with my goals or my life expectations. And so there's definitely an opportunity here to learn about yourself and where you best fit in, and then just start saying, my skills, where do my skills generally fit in? And if you don't have like a lot to your name already, you can just say, like, theoretically, if I think about what would it be like to work at Apple? Like, I have no idea. What would it be like to work at Apple? Well, maybe if I should research and investigate, what is a team at Apple like? What are their work conditions like? Would I like that or would I not like that? Or a lot of times people say they want to work for a startup. You say, if I want to work for a startup, what are the conditions of working inside of a startup? Would I like that or would I not like it? Would it be valuable? Would they be able to pay me? And then you can start to say, well, based on these combinations of things, this is who I want to target. This is who I don't want to target. And this is just a personal learning exercise that you can try out for yourself.
This is really great advice. I didn't think about it in that way. Putting it all out there and then just following the points.
Yeah, there's a couple of other things I'd recommend for you on your website, which is anytime you're using AI generated stuff, you do have to watch out for certain AI trends. And one AI trend that I'll point out to you that you can go and deal with is affordance problems, which is AI has a big tendency to add zoom effects and hover effects to things that in fact don't do anything. For example, a zoom effect on your image, this is a button affordance, but this is not a button. So we probably shouldn't have this.
Okay.
Another thing you'll see is you'll have double affordances. For example, if I hover on this, I have a button affordance for the image. The image gets a little bit bigger, but I also have a shadow. And then I also have a button that if I hover on the button also does a thing. And so this is like 3 or 4 affordances at the same time for one thing. You'll want to make sure that if you keep a button here, which I think it's good to have a button here, make sure the button animates when I'm on it.
Okay.
And then make sure if this is actually a button as a full card, I can click on the card. Otherwise, the card shouldn't have a hover and a zoom effect. Because this would indicate to me I can click this. I can't click this, though, because the only button is down here at the bottom. So it's just something to watch out for as well. Then I would also have this back to top button. It's kind of hanging out over here in the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I need to fix that.
AI likes to add these to a lot of places, but when you think about it, like when you really think about it, is this super useful? Your website's pretty short and small. It's probably not worth having. I think you could just take this thing and just zap it. I think you're totally fine. I don't think it's a big deal. You also do have
the entire section, or just like one part of it?
Just the button, the section that the whole button's in for that thing.
Okay.
How with it? It probably renders different in code than it does out here. For up here, you do have this plus 2 years anchor here. I appreciate the transparency. I do think that if you add 2 years of UX research, that does not really help me understand more about you that to like a degree that's convincing or persuasive. I think you're also safe to just remove that.
Okay.
And then one last style thing I'll point out to you is if you look across your stylistic choices here so far, we've got borders, we've got rounding, we've got lines. There's like a certain aesthetic that's happening here, and we just need to make sure that the aesthetic is consistent. So like making sure, I don't know for sure, you'll have to go look at this, but like, for example, if you have a type of button that hovers like this, is this the same type of button that we're seeing down here, right? Even though they look pretty similar, why do they have different affordances? Or, you know, like if I click at this button has a certain affordance. I'm thinking about the value of this certification, this certificate button. If I'm on your website and you want me to connect with you and I want to talk with you and I want to learn about you, does seeing your certificates actually increase my desire to work with you, or is there something else that could probably go here? Because we often recommend like about pages or something that sends people to the right place to learn about who you are. And it looks like this gets you to the right page, even though it doesn't get you to maybe the full page as in general. So just thinking about like what is persuasive, making sure that these buttons will match your navigation so people feel like they understand the right place to go. All that kind of stuff would be little minor things I might recommend, just in terms of helping to keep your site the right way. And even like this rounding is a little bit, there's something about the rounding of this image compared to the perfect circle right here and the very thin lines everywhere else that is also kind of throwing me for a little bit of a style loop.
Okay. Yeah, this is really helpful because some of the things that you mentioned, I thought they were like, I liked the affordances on the images, and then when you click on it, it hovers and it zooms and gives a little bit of extra movement to the elements there. That's why I kept it. But now that you said that, it could be like the user could get confused that this might be a button because it is essentially related to that. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I do think like there's a time and place for this, right? You could just remove that button, right? And then the card is the button all by itself. And that's probably a little bit better of a better UX choice. But then also thinking about these images, this now we're going to get down the rabbit hole for like how to maximize this area. But in this image, like, does this image really tell me a persuasive story about why I should choose this project? And the answer is no, it does not. So there's even opportunities for like what kind of visual asset to include here, but that would probably be a later opportunity. I do recommend for your positioning statement though, you have this awesome thing here about making the invisible visible. I would actually just recommend removing the ing. So just make the invisible visible. And this becomes a better like CTA type statement where you're inviting someone. You're basically saying, you're implying that you make the invisible things visible, and you're inviting that person to choose you to make this. So this helps elevate your positioning statement just a little bit more. Versus instead of it being a claim, it's now an invitation.
Okay.
That is a little bit of a cool thing for that. Otherwise, I feel like we've gotten a lot of ground covered here. I don't know if I have any more in this particular topic vein to add, Nate.
Mehak, for being an entry level, having just graduated professional in the marketplace, you're kind of doing a lot of stuff really well. I just clicked on your licenses and certifications. You got to be kidding me here. You have so many, like you clearly have a direction here. How do you feel about working enterprise?
I'm really open to any opportunity, as I said earlier. Because for me at this point, because I'm new, I really want to get the experience, and I want to really like work and get into it basically. And just be better at what I am right now.
Well,
Get the experience.
either way, I think you're doing a great
I do try
job.
to keep up with the certifications and
Cool. Always cool to see other agile folk out there. And I feel like agile is becoming larger of a thing. Not to suggest it isn't already a large thing, but I don't feel like I talk with a whole lot of agile folks. So a pleasure to talk with you. Appreciate the time.
yeah, thank you so much. No, I realized during my time in school that when you're conducting like a UX project, etc., basically at the end of the day is also a project, and you got to deal with it. And these days, the teams are working more towards agile sides of things, reiteration and getting things quicker and having more value to it. So I thought it was, and because I do have like a specialization in operations in my bachelor's in project management, so I thought, I can hold on to that and then extend it in the UX
Yes.
space too.
Yes.
Because so that's when in school I also delved into UX and project management, so I can just basically hone into both of my skills and make it work somehow. I feel like it's gonna work because it's really going hand in hand everywhere I see.
So everything you've described so far positions you as a much stronger candidate than your current value prop is suggesting you are. I think there's a whole lot of stuff we can grab from there and add.
Okay, I'm gonna remember that.
Mehak, appreciate chatting with you. Appreciate you being on here and being able to chat with us very last minute. I didn't think you were going to be on the list, but you were able to finesse your way on.
Yeah, I was waiting for my turn. I was like keeping track. But thank you so much. This is really valuable feedback because I did feel lost a lot of the times while I was working on my portfolio. So this is like some really good direction. And I will definitely hop on again once I make these changes so we can like I can get some feedback on the case studies as well.
Yeah, I would love to chat
On
again.
your About Me page, I might recommend you have these eyebrow sections. And if you
Yeah.
notice, there's 3 different types. You've got this purplish eyebrow one, this one where it's purplish but on the right side, and then you've got a bigger, darker one with it on the right side as well. So you might want to go through and just see if you can clean up these so they're consistent between
Okay.
all the different sections here. And then you may want a darker or more vibrant color for
Okay.
typography, for text, when it's on
Okay.
this kind of muted background. Otherwise, it might start to feel a little bit faded or dark. So you can even see like taking this is like your muted color and kind of giving it a little more of a vibrant purple helps it stand out a little bit without feeling out of context. That's a suggestion that's totally subjective. That's
Yeah.
100% subjective. So that is up to you 100%. But thank you for your time. Thank you for
Thank
being here.
you.
We appreciate you. And we look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Thank you so much for the feedback. I was just trying to make sure that it also follows some accessibility considerations, but I think I maybe need to work on that a little bit more, considering the coloring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. So normally we go for 2 hours. We have 20 minutes left in the session. Tim and I are going to try something different today. Instead of continuing with portfolio reviews, we're going to transition into, I don't know, what are we calling this, Tim? A new segment? A new
bit? Yeah.
A new bit? Tim and I have been dabbling
I don't know.
with, we've been doing Feedback Friday for, we're probably closing in on 10 months, somewhere in there, maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter, give or take.
Has it only been that long? I feel like it's got to at least be a year now.
It could be.
Surely it's been a full year.
Maybe. Feels like forever.
Wait.
One of the things that Tim and I have been chatting about is we talk about Feedback Friday a lot, and we have no intention of stopping Feedback Friday. But there are other aspects of design that we can also potentially talk about. Tim and I don't get to talk about a lot of the deeper theory all the time. I was able to squeeze some in today, which I love. And I love talking about marketing, which I don't typically get to talk about. But there's another subject out there that is pressing in the news that designers want to talk about, and that's AI. Tim, of course, being a renowned expert in AI, myself being an intermediary AI user, though both of us have transitioned our portfolios to full AI use, similar to that of Mehak. Tim, let's talk about some AI.
Let's talk about AI. Where do we start? First of all, does anyone have any question? Who is using artificial intelligence inside their workflows right now? And who has an interest in learning that kind of thing? As we kind of work on this, we're going to need to tune and kind of figure out exactly what kind of conversation to have on this or where to go with it. And I think that one thing Nate and I will need is help with calibration and figuring out topically where people where people are. So, so I see. Okay, so we've got someone who's using Claude Design and Claude Code. Interesting for both. We have a couple people who are expressing interest. We would love to know. Maybe we need to put like a. Can we do a poll? Do we have poll abilities here?
I don't know.
Poll. I can do a poll. Yeah, poll. Yes, no. Are you using Claude Code or Claude Design?
Specific to Claude or AI in general?
Oh, wow. Okay. And then are you using Claude / AI in other ways? What was it? Not Claude Design.
Tim, any opinions on recording or canceling the YouTube stream?
I think we can do either way, Nate.
Let's
Might
keep
be
it
good
going.
to leave it off.
Oh.
Okay, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
keep it going then. Okay, so we've got, are you using Claude Design? Most people are not using Claude Design who have answered the question, but lots of people are using Claude and AI that's not Claude Design. Okay, yeah, we've got a lot of people who are not using Claude Design. This is great. One person is using Claude Design. So, yeah, this is a tough, where do we even start? Because we can go from like, we could do a series where it's like beginner, right? Or we could do a series where it's assuming you have some beginner capabilities. Now we get to the more complex stuff. Where does everyone feel like they're at? Beginner, we got one person who's asking for beginner. We'll do another question. We're going to keep doing polls. This is great. Yes for beginner. No for intermediate or higher.
The debacle that Tim is attempting to remedy here is that we know people want to talk about AI, and Tim and I are capable of talking about AI. So we've got this 2-hour session that we do every Friday where we'd like to start incorporating talking about AI. So we're contemplating, should we reduce the time of Feedback Friday to an hour and a half and then have the last 30 minutes be an AI session? And if so, what do we talk about? What kind of conversations should we host there? And this is like this is us dabbling our toes in the water of like, how could this conversation go? What's the appetite for it? Are people even interested in this? Although we surely, I don't know that we have to do any testing on that. That's where our minds are at, chat.
We've got a lot of beginners. Okay, that's at least who's engaging with our polls.
Mehak,
Okay,
is it okay to
I
use
think-
AI for portfolios the way I have? I have no problems with it whatsoever, and know that Tim and I have both fully transitioned our own portfolios to AI.
Yeah, let's just do some high level questions, Nate. Nate, if I were to ask you, is it okay to use AI with design?
That's the end of the question.
That's the other question.
Is it okay to use AI with design? Yes. How much of an answer are you looking for?
I guess I'm hoping to start a conversation.
So a bulleted yes answer is incorrect. Yes, absolutely okay to start utilizing AI. There are a lot of different directions that conversation could go. There's the ethics of AI. There's the effectiveness of AI. There's how to utilize AI within particular workflows. For example, something I'm struggling with currently being in the healthcare space, highly regulated, is how do we incorporate AI in a structured format that doesn't violate laws or regulations? So it is absolutely okay to utilize AI. The context there being, there are occasions in which the methodologies and the methods that we use AI have constraint that we need to work around. So now it's just a method of figuring out how can AI assist in those occasions.
Gotcha. Yeah. My response to this question is usually that using artificial intelligence is a evolution of design tools and creative thinking. And the problem that I take issue with design is when people assign accountability and responsibility to artificial intelligence, which it cannot take. one of the core tenets of computers, guys, is that computers cannot be accountable for decisions. They just can't be. Like if you make a mistake, the mistake is something you've made. Like you've made a mistake. Like obviously there's computer bugs and things and happens, mishaps. But like if artificial intelligence gives you a design and you put that design on your website, the person who is accountable for that design is you, not artificial intelligence. Ownership, of course, is a little bit of a trickier thing about who owns that, who did the work for it. But at the same time, like the accountability has to fall to you. And so when people are saying, let's vibe design inside of the UX world, when you think about like what actually constitutes UX design or the industry in general, and they're saying, let's just vibe design and choose whatever the AI gives us. And that is going to be the decision that we make as a team. Well, you're now like putting accountability, referring it onto an AI. And I take issue with that. I think instead of doing that, we need to take a position of intent coding is what I typically call it, or intent designing and using intentions with AI. Anytime you use an AI, you need to have a clear goal of what you're trying to accomplish, or at least you have like a rough outline of how you're going to use it, and making sure to regulate yourself that you do not offload your own accountability or your own responsibility onto these systems that will pretend to do thinking for you, they'll simulate thinking, and they want us to be more comfortable with that. And they want us to think that we can give them all of our thinking, but we can't really give them everything. They just help us. So if you have a bad plan or bad goal, AI will help you accomplish a very good version of a bad goal. But it does not mean it's a good goal, right? Your goals haven't changed. So meandering a little bit at the end, but that would be my responses. I think it's important we learn as designers to use AI within design, but we need to be really careful about what exactly we're giving it based on our own intentions and how we apply it. Yeah, I'm with Jerry on that.
I too am not a huge fan of the phrase vibe coding, but I feel like we've matured from it since the term came out.
Okay, let's see. Also in here, Nate, if we're talking about this in like design and AI, this is going to be such a loaded question that I fear it's not going to be very helpful to answer. But if you were to say, if I wanted to start using AI inside of design world, where do I start with that? Like, what's the entry point?
As in, how does one adopt the utilities, or how can I adjust my workflows to best accommodate the world of AI?
I think those are both better questions than what I asked you.
Well, so what came to mind when you asked the question was, I live in a world of agile. I work in enterprise. We're a heavy agile shop. Now, what's fascinating about agile is, and we can talk about the differences of waterfall and agile and why I'm in the philosophical agile camp. If I were to define them very loosely, but I think interestingly, just for the sake of today's conversation, I would say waterfall tries to get things right, tries to get things done correctly on the first try. Agile tries to get things done correctly eventually. So with the objective of agile trying to get things done eventually, AI is exceptional at building outputs for prototyping, testing, and iteration. And with that capability coming so accessible, Agile is going to have a much more capable, Agile is going to have much more capability in adopting AI effectively and quickly. So like from a business team formation philosophy, I think Agile is paramount to AI is paramount to the Agile space. My cat he loves the screen. What can I say?
Yeah, I think it's also really important to recognize that in order to iterate effectively, you have to give guidance. So AI is not at a place right now where it can effectively iterate itself over time because of the data sources it has access to. Like as a person, we have the ability to intuit certain things based on our experiences and on our input that AI just does not have access to. Like intuition is not something an AI has. It has access to scripts. It has access to its neural network of trained data, and that gives it biases. And that's not the same thing as intuition. And so there's some challenges there's some challenges when you use that. Let's go ahead, Nate. Guys, just letting you know, we're going to formalize this a little bit more over time. We're just kind of gauging interest as we talk about this. So don't feel like it's going to be this frame shackled every time. But I think we'll go ahead and we'll start going through the chat, and let's just see how many of these questions we can kind of knock out and start teeing things up and seeing where we go with this. So Nate, the very first question I have on AI that I see here is Rash. Rash, I hope that's just a name and not a state of being. Has said, has anyone tried pencil.dev and paper MCP? And are they better than Figma MCP?
I have strong opinions on this, but you are really the connoisseur of pencil. I've used it quite a bit myself, but I think you're probably the best person to answer that.
Yes. So when we're talking about like workflow adoptions for AI, AI is exceptional at volume, not necessarily precision. And you'll notice that in an iteration state, volume often helps with ideas, right? We talk about like it's good to get a bunch of ideas on paper and to see where things go. So one very common implementation of AI is using something like pencil.dev or even paper MCP to quickly generate ideas. So pencil, should we even show it off? Is that
Pencil?
Is that the stage we're at?
Sure.
Yeah, should we just do that?
Yeah, you want a prompt? I got one prepped if you need one.
Let's do stage manager. Welcome to my screen, guys. I'm not sure if it's been a while since I've opened Pencil. Okay, this is Pencil, guys. Pencil lets you connect an agent. Actually, it might need to be updated too. I'm out of date. But basically allows you to say, I would like to work on a thing. You put it in this chat, and then it will summon instances of AI through API calls to essentially, there's our update, to generate many versions of something across a very big canvas. And this is optimized for AI. So you'll notice it looks very similar, honestly, to Figma in a lot of ways, right? You've got frame tools, you've got all of your normal stuff on the side. And you could technically manually design inside of this, but it is optimized instead of humans doing this for agents to do it. And this allows you to say, go to Figma. Let's actually, we're gonna steal this. We're gonna steal this real quick. I'm gonna copy this web page. I'm gonna go to Figma. This is also a cool thing Paper can do is that you can paste in Figma frames.
What Pencil can
copy
do.
this Figma frame. Yeah, go over to Pencil.
Pencil, for those folks in the chat confused, Pencil and Paper are two different applications that look very similar, but do have different constructs and fundamentals on how they work. Tim is currently utilizing Pencil.
Okay, so you'll notice here that we're going to go and choose Opus 4.7. I think it's going to default on our effort level. High. Okay, good. So just like you would in Figma. So if I had a design, it's like, hey, I need to do some versions of this. I just want to see what it can do. Pencil is very good at you give it this. It looks at your prompt. It looks at the thing you're looking at, and it's able to summon agents that will then help you work on top of this. It's a little bit slow, so we'll leave it here. The short story with Pencil, though, or with a lot of these tools, that they're very good at getting broad strokes and ideas out, but they do run out of new ideas very quickly. They have a limited range of basic, like, creative mental space, right? They have a very hard time inventing things that have not ever been invented before. And so there's a time where it's very nice when you're looking at this for the very first time, right? Where you might want to say, like, I need to build like a basic form, or I need to do something that probably has a design system that I can draw upon. In which case, this can very help you see all the different patterns and availability to address some of that. But then, if you ever want to make it feel unique and special, it's going to have a really hard time getting you across that extra mile. And you'll notice that, just like we pointed out during the call, that consistency can also vary a lot. Like it will, if you let it, it'll invent a new tool every single time. So if you put a button on your website, it'll make a different button every single time it needs to put a button on, instead of using a consistent button library, unless of course you've set up the correct prompt. And so there are lots of like weird constraints that you just have to think about and being really careful about how you ask it questions and tell it to do things. Otherwise, it'll do its best, and it can sometimes bias incorrectly. So that can become a challenge. Paper MCP, I think, is a paid version of something like this, and it does work. I have found that it's not, because it's paid, it's cool. I guess it looks a little bit more refined, but I'm also going to put it out there that you shouldn't have to pay for tools like this. Like, when you think about what is this actually doing, this is actually just building HTML and React, and you can do this in your browser for free. So Paper, I get Paper's cool. I get that they need a thing for it. And I appreciate what they're attempting to accomplish, but maybe we need to talk about our AI subscription model speech, Nate, if you're ready for that one too.
I'm looking at the clock, Tim. I'll have to take off here fairly shortly, but feel free to continue beyond me if that is okay with you.
Yeah, well, maybe you should weigh in. Do you think that tools like these are better than Figma MCP?
So I was kind of prepping for this conversation. If we take a look at Figma MCP, if we were to like take a look at how AI functions within these utilities, and maybe make categories within all the steps of the AI thinking process. So, for example, quality of output, or the token effectiveness, or the ability to iterate intelligently, the ability to then build an output that's effective for exporting in some fashion. If we were to take that AI process and take all the stages along the way and then challenge, is Figma MCP good at all of these individual stages? I would argue it's kind of not. In fact, in regard to AI innovation, Figma is not in the top 10 as far as I can tell, or even anywhere close. My perception of things like Figma MCP or Figma Make are that they are attempting to throw on AI utility on an application that clearly wasn't designed for it, and then exposing applications like Pencil, what you're showcasing here, and how they utilize AI is a real quick comparison to, like, this is what I want Figma to do. It just can't. It just doesn't have the capability of doing it. So in regard to, like, is Figma MCP okay? They're certainly trying to get their stuff out there, but like, if your goal is to tie into some AI design methodologies here, I can tell you that my goals at my enterprise, I work at a Fortune 25, our goal in our department is to remove Figma from the equation entirely. We now see it as an arbitrary middleman in our workflow. How do you feel about that, Tim? Any challenges with Figma MCP being lackluster in capability?
No, so it comes down to how files are controlled. When you're watching AI work in here, right? If we're watching, this is Agent Lazo working on version 17. You can see it's doing it kind of like live. You can see it's like actively putting stuff in places, right? There's like an active code generation ability. You get to see the work that it's doing. Kind of it has like a planning agent that tells you probably what it's about to put down, and then it generates the code, and it kind of makes it look like it's kind of human-like in building. If you've ever used Figma MCP, what you'll notice about it is that you add a request, it loads, and then suddenly the request appears inside of your design file. And let's just playground it. This is because when AI has to write code, right? And it does it line by line. But the problem is that how does this code get into the app, right? Your app container. That's the big question for people. Like, how do you get data in and out? And so you can use an MCP. An MCP basically says, hey, we're going to connect to this app. We're going to connect to the AI. And then we're going to say, here's a list of things that you get to do. That's the basic definition of an MCP. Machine Control Protocol. Actually, is that what it stands for? I think I just made that up. I don't know if that's actually what it stands for. It's a protocol of some kind. Is it machine control?
Model context.
Okay, thank you. I was like, what the heck? Yeah, that's definitely not what it stands for. In general, though, what's happening is with Figma says we don't want people to be able to have this code, because for us, this is the money part. the money part of Figma is how we deal with our code stuff. So we're not going to let you see the code as it's happening. Instead, we're going to let an AI connect to our MCP, which is actually connected to figma.com. It's going to write the code on figma.com, or it's going to send code. It's going to write code, send it to figma.com, and then it's going to get approved, and then we're going to send that to your app. And so you'll notice here that you don't get any visibility to what's happening along the way, and you get a lot less control of it along the way. And this means that you have really big file requests that go through, right? Because you can't individually call things. You have to look at the full thing. And anytime you ask it questions, you also have to look at really big file context. Context is really interesting. I'll draw a super quick graph here. When we're talking about context limits as a limit, context limits is related to something that we call memory. Memory is the ability of an AI to correctly recall information after you've told it something. And so if you were to say that this is 100% memory recall, actually AI does not have it. AI starts kind of around 90%. So if you imagine baseline, 90% of the time AI will correctly remember what you've told it, which is pretty bad. That's why AI has a lot of safe checks where it tells itself to reread things and then will remember it correctly that way. What happens though is that as over time, so say this is one input. If I give it one input, one token input could be like one character. It's not exactly that because it itemizes tokens, but over time, as I add more requests, we get closer to this threshold of around 1 million. 1 million. And AI will remember less and less over time, which means that as you get towards higher context, you have less accuracy. You're getting close to like 60, 70% accuracy on a lot of these models. And so there is an incentive for us to say, hey, AI does its best work somewhere in between like 10% tokens and 50% tokens, right? Somewhere in this middle zone is the Goldilocks zone where it has a optimal amount of context, where it knows enough to do things smartly, and it remembers enough to do things intelligently. And you'll also notice that as you get higher context limits, every request becomes more expensive because it's cumulative. So every time you ask a question, you're stacking on top of the previous question. And so your cost will go up as well over time. And so it is better for everyone to have smaller token windows in a performance standpoint and a cost standpoint. What this means is that something like Figma, which requires you to send the full code back and forth every single call, it forgets stuff a lot. It is going to be really high up in terms of the cost. You're looking at huge cost limits for tokens. So it's going to run out of room faster. It's going to remember stuff less often. It's going to be more expensive to run. And it's also just not very well optimized. Now, over time, I do believe this problem will be solved for. And the solution that Figma has done for this is they call it Figma Make. This is Figma's opinion about how they want to do MCP. They do not want people to pay other AIs to use Figma. They want you to pay Figma to use a Figma AI. And so that is the Figma opinion. So they are solving this problem, but their incentive to solve it is relatively low because they have their own in-house model that they want you to pay for. Nate, have we answered a question here in this, or am I just totally going off?
I genuinely can't remember what the question was, but surely we provided insight in some fashion.
Hopefully. Oh yeah. Is Figma better? Is it better than Figma MCP? It depends what we want to do, right? Architecture wise, it's going to be cheaper. And you also just have to know what exactly is the AI good at. If you want to build a Figma frame, you have to know that AI is very good at, let's look at this output. We told it to say, we're building this thing. We want some different versions of this. And if you look across these are all technically different versions of this one web page. And they all technically do explore different versions of it. But like you'll notice that the accuracy of information across the whole thing, it kind of goes away over time. We're also going to see that it's going to try similar themes, but none of them are going to have like a level of precision or consistency. This actually looks pretty good. It looks like it cleaned up. It just cleaned up the version that we gave it and made it look exactly the same. Well, I don't know what this is here. It's kind of it's a tour. Look at this. Tour of the design, founder, brain searching. Okay, interesting. But like you'll notice that with Figma, it's just gonna have a hard time maintaining a certain standard, and it can build a couple of one-off frames, but they're always going to be in that bias way and lacking a certain level of fidelity. And so you have to decide, is it the right tool? The question I prefer to ask is, if I want to make a visual design, like what is the problem I'm solving here? If I want to make a Figma frame, Figma MCP is probably the best tool for it. If I'm trying to make a design, I don't think Figma MCP is the right tool for an AI to make a visual design. There are tools that are way better and effective at making visual designs for AI, which is, follow the flow, right? If you think about like an AI, if you're asking AI to make a design, what exactly is the AI going to do for that request? It's going to write code. So why not just let it write code and not worry about sending it somewhere else? So write the code directly. You can do this as HTML, or you can do this as a React, right? But basically, writing into code is a lot more efficient, and it goes with the flow. Like an AI is very good at this already. It's trained on that model, that context, versus doing it specifically inside of Figma. So paper and pencil solve the problem of I need to design versions of something better than Figma MCP because they go with the flow of AI training.
Tim, I've got to take off. Did you want to hang out here and continue chatting about AI?
I will continue hanging out just for a little bit. Not very long, though. I mostly want to see what other things are people asking about and kind of getting into seeing what is valuable for others.
Tim, appreciate the time. Chat, good seeing you again as always. We will have this segment of AI conversation more refined in the future. Looking forward to talking about it more. Take care, folks.
See the engagement here. Yeah. Oof. Okay. Hopefully we've answered